generations, one family, their lives and careers, for 150 years are interwoven with American history.
In my 67th year, having been the object of much misrepresentation, for my children I commit these memoirs to writing, and to them and their posterity I recommend those moral sentiments and sacred thoughts which at all hazards and by every sacrifice I have endeavored to preserve through life.
1758. Young John Adams, born in the colony of Massachusetts. Harvard graduate, sometime schoolmaster, would-be lawyer, a faithful subject of the British Crown. His soon-to-be sovereign, George of Hanover, Prince of Wales, heir to the throne of England, an earnest, not too bright young man, anxious to succeed at the job he was born to, that of being a king. Sovereign and subject, separated by 3,000 miles of ocean and chasms of birth, breeding, wealth, and privilege. Neither knows that they are embarking on a collision course.
Gridley will see you briefly.
Mr. Adams.
Mr. Gridley.
On my desk.
You do not know me, sir. However, you are acquainted with Mr. Putnam, with whom I've been studying law in the country.
What do you want of me?
Sir, I need a patron who will recommend me to the bar in Boston.
Why, come to me. You admit I don't know you. Why, I scarcely know Putnam.
I have no lawyer friends here who can testify to my learning. They told me you would not be influenced by a man's connections, but by his qualities.
How long did you say you'd studied the law?
I've been Mr. Putnam's clerk for 3 years.
You read Latin?
Indeed. The last Latin I read was Justinian's Institutes.
Where did you find that work? I have no copy in these colonies but my own.
I borrowed a copy from the Harvard College Library. I was a student there.
Studying what?
Theology.
And why did you abandon that worthy pursuit?
I had developed certain doubts.
About God?
No, sir. About my fitness for the pulpit.
So then you settled on the law?
No, sir. I taught school for a while.
Yes?
I found I lacked the patience to instruct the young.
And what makes you think you are now fit for the law? Practice law in these colonies. A man needs the oratory of a preacher, the patience of a country schoolmaster. Law here is not like law in England. Here you must be a man of all work. You must know your common law, your civil law, your admiralty law. do the duty of solicitor, counselor, attorney, scrivener. Here, take these. For all that, there are 300 hungry lawyers right here in Boston.
Well, sir, I hope to practice law in the village where I live. Good lawyers are needed there. In Braintree, every spring, men's passions thaw out and heat up after a cold, hard winter. I've seen such greed, such vanity, such anger that only murder could come of it. Yet those untamed beasts, roaring and blustering, are brought under control in the courthouse by the law.
You read your Puffendorf?
Puffendorf? No, I can't.
Terrible lack in you. Of course, you've studied Cook's Institute.
Indeed, I have just finished reading an abridgment.
An abridgment of Cook? You read the father of our English common law in little snippets.
Well, sir, it is difficult to obtain Cook's complete works here in Massachusetts.
They can be imported from London. You don't squander your resources in women and drink.
Mr. Gridley, I believe I have lived a moral and temperate life.
At Harvard, that citadel of riot and dissipation.
Sir, I have resolved to marry without a stain upon my name or my conscience. Does that satisfy you?
No, sir, it does not. Not if you mean to marry at all. Nothing ruins a young lawyer's prospects so much as an early marriage. Distractions, children, the end of study, the constant pursuit of riches. A young man should follow the law as a great end in itself, not for gain. That is impossible with a wife, unless you happen to come of a wealthy family.
No, sir, my father is a farmer. I will inherit his house and some land, but nothing more. Indeed, I know how difficult it shall be. I'm prepared to work the farm to keep myself alive, but I mean to be a lawyer.
Sir?
You detained me far too long, Mr. Adams. I'm due in court now.
Mr. Gridley, I have ridden half this day to meet you, hoping that you would test my knowledge of the law and my skill at languages. Mr. Gridley! Mr. Gridley, you cannot leave without testing me.
Mr. Adams, I'm certain you own a few weary Latin quotations and a dog-eared Greek grammar. As for your possession of legal knowledge, I have no doubt you read too much, too quickly, and understood none of it. No, sir, I cannot recommend you to the bar for your learning. Abridgments of Cook, indeed. However, if you appear in court early tomorrow, I will present you to be sworn at the bar.
But why?
I admire the way you handled my books. You held them gently with the respect due the record of our laws. Any man can be passionate about knowledge. Only a rare few can be tender towards it. Indeed, I have high hopes for you. Once you have read your Puffendorf,
John! Sam!
Thank you, my friend.
Sam Adams! What brings you to Braintree?
I came as soon as I received your message in Boston.
I didn't write for you.
Exactly, that's the message I received. Why have I not heard from Cousin John in months? Have you been ill?
I'm never ill here in Braintree.
And why this silence? Perhaps your fingers are too sore from your legal labors to write. But your arse looks strong enough for a trip to Boston.
Don't dissemble with me, Sam. You know very well why I can never go to Boston again. You think me so brazen to parade my failures there?
What failures?
Well, surely it's all over Boston. Field versus Lambert?
No.
My Uncle Field gave me my first case here. He brought his neighbor Lambert to law to prevent Lambert's cow from grazing on his property. I drew up a writ so hastily I failed to put in the name of the county. The case was thrown out by the court.
John, one case means nothing.
But it was more than one case, Sam. The very next month, I defended a client accused of selling an old horse under false pretenses. Well, I did not fully understand the case. The courtroom was a scene of absolute confusion, both parties raging at one another. I committed oversights and omissions. As I argued before the judge,
Yes?
the horse died of old age.
Forgive me, John. I'm sure you'd have won the case had the horse lived.
Sam, I would have lost the case had the horse been a colt. Here I am, a true lawyer, sworn before the bar, losing cases to pettifoggers. Men with no training at all. The only cases I can get here now are those which should be settled by a fist fight. I'm a failure.
No, John. Merely a lunatic. This comes from, living alone too long. I'd go mad here in 6 days with no one to argue politics but the poultry. The only cure for you is to leave this farm for a while.
What, go to Boston? What if I met Mr. Gridley and he asked me about my
I'm
problem?
not suggesting Boston. Weymouth will do. Your friend Dick Cranch wishes you to dine with him at the home of his fiancée, Miss Smith. I believe you know her father, Parson Smith.
Oh, that crafty old snob. I'd rather stay at home.
Cranch swears his fiancée has 2 charming sisters.
More reason not to go. I cut a poor figure among the ladies.
Nonsense.
It's true, Sam. I've fallen into a fearful habit whenever I meet one. I become silent and forbidding. Or what is worse, I affect wit. Begin to shrug my shoulders and distort my face like a village fool.
John, if you don't think you're good enough to dine with the parson and his daughters, I won't argue you're going.
To our most gracious King, George III.
George III.
Well, Mr. Cranch, what did you make of our new king's speech?
I was very favorably impressed, sir.
And you, sir? Mr. Adams?
Well, I like the manner in which he declared himself a friend of liberty. I trust he will protect his subjects' rights.
Do you truly think so, Mr. Adams?
Well, I strive to speak only when I have considered what I will say, Miss Smith.
Well, I would choose to wait before I would praise our new king.
Abigail.
Until such time as we can speak as well of his deeds as he speaks of his intentions.
Pray forgive her, Mr. Adams. I fear our nabby is subject to these fits of opinion.
Comes from a frail constitution and a too indulgent father. More wine, Mr. Adams.
It's evident, Mr. Adams, that these parish lands were deeded to my parsonage in perpetuity. Now, for the north precinct of Weymouth to press a claim to them appears to be plain theft.
I'm sure I don't know, Parson.
Well, you're a lawyer. You must have some opinion.
Well, I would first have to read the deeds myself.
Excellent. I'll fetch them.
But I'm no expert on property law. Parson? I trust your father runs no risk of losing his lands, Miss Smith.
Don't despair for him, Mr. Adams. This dispute over the parish lands has been going on for 50 years. We don't settle matters in haste here in Weymouth.
My friend Cranch and your sister would seem to be the great exception. I understand they will marry shortly.
Yes, we are happy for them. He is a good man, and they are in love.
I am myself insensitive to such feelings.
Surely you don't consider love a weakness.
In a poor man, it is a folly.
But Richard is not poor. I understand he owns a thriving business.
I was speaking of myself.
Ah. I've noticed you do that quite often.
Do you think me vain, Miss Smith?
According to the great poet, self-love but serves to wake the virtuous mind.
You read Pope?
Aside from Shakespeare, there is no poet I so admire.
How extraordinary. They're my favorites as well.
Pray let us end this talk of poets. Father becomes quite cross if I discuss my books with strangers.
But why?
Parson's daughter is supposed to quote her Bible. Anything more is ostentation.
Were you my daughter, Miss Smith, I would take great pride in your prodigy.
Mr. Adams, as you are only 10 years my senior, were you my father, you would be the prodigy.
Excuse me. Mr. Adams, how have you time for your farm and the law?
Well, I've none too many clients, Miss Smith. The one who interests me the most is the apprentice to a weaver. When he signed his papers, his master promised to teach him to read. Now the master's refused to honor his part of the bargain.
But what need has a weaver's boy with reading?
Elizabeth, how can you ask that? Can a man live as a man in this world if he is denied his education?
Indeed, Miss Smith. Our English Constitution is grounded on the right of every man to think and act for himself.
How else can he judge his government if he is kept ignorant of its acts? Only by reading in his Bible and in his newspaper will he enlarge his range of thought. Deny him an education, and all of us will suffer. Our liberty cannot be preserved without a general knowledge among the people.
And they declared in favor of the apprentice in less than 5 minutes.
Oh, I am pleased you came by to tell us this news.
I was passing through Weymouth, and I thought I would study your father's deeds while I'm here.
Ah, they are inside with Father.
Miss Smith, the plain truth is I came today in hope of seeing you alone.
I am alone.
I would be less than candid if I did not say that you've made a most favorable impression on me.
Thank you.
Of all the women I've met, you appear to be the most honest, the least capable of craft or guile, and I admire that.
It is always easy to admire qualities in others which we possess ourselves.
Oh, Miss Smith, I would not have you think me better than I am. I fear I lack that virtue of speaking plainly that I find in you.
Oh, I doubt that you...
You must hear me out. I want your friendship more than any in this world, but you must know what I am. You will remember when I last spoke with your father, how I told him that I hated great estates and fame, and that I was content with the simple things of nature.
Yes?
I lust after fame. I dream of making a great name in the world.
Mr. Adams, you need not tell me this.
Moreover, you will recall when we spoke of the love between my friend Cranch and your sister, how I claimed to be insensible to such passions.
You did sneer most marvelously.
Oh, that was not my sneer.
No?
That was Gridley's sneer.
Gridley's sneer?
A great lawyer I met in Boston. I studied his sneer in the hope of procuring respect.
Pray, Mr. Adams, where did you study your silence?
Silence?
Indeed, that icy silence. It often makes me tremble with the disapproval it implies.
Well, that silence is my own. But the point I wish to make, Miss Smith, is that I am most susceptible to passion. Ever since I was a boy, I have struggled with my amorous disposition. Pray understand, I have always won that struggle.
Mr. Adams, I wish to be your friend, not your confessor.
You must know what I am. I have a dread of contempt. I would rather tell you my failings than have you discover them from others.
I trust I have sufficient judgment of my own not to depend on the world's gossip for opinions.
I feared perhaps you had heard things about me and your cousin Hannah.
I said I do not listen to gossip.
How splendid you are.
Of course, if you wish to tell me about it, I can scarcely prevent you from doing so.
Well, she wheedled me into a courtship, I fear, and when I failed to propose, she put it about that she had jilted me.
Would you rather have it said that you jilted her?
Oh, no. No. I will not deny that she disturbed my sleep. But I soon discovered she did not want me as much as another suitor to add to her collection.
Then it is not true that you proposed to her.
Indeed it is not. Though I cannot say what might have been if her cousin Esther had not broken in on us one evening. And I was saved from an early marriage, one that would have led me into obscurity.
Oh, I doubt that a man of your learning would meet such a fate.
My learning? Miss Smith, I have set myself up as a scholar to impress you. No doubt you think I spend all my days in study. Well, that is hardly true.
No?
Yesterday, I wasted an entire morning reading Ovid's Art of Love. What time was not consumed that way, I squandered in dreaming, and hunting and chatting with my
Mr.
neighbor.
Adams, are you trying to tell me that you are human?
Miss Smith, you do not know how human I am.
Marry Mr. Adams? Has he made you an offer?
No, but he will.
Abigail, you cannot.
Mother, why not? Do you know something that would prevent my accepting him?
Indeed. You've been a frail girl all your life. You're not suited to the hardships of a farmer's wife.
Mr. Adams is a lawyer, Mother.
Of small distinction.
Well, that will not always be the case.
Nabby, your grandfather was Colonel Quincy, one of the most distinguished men in Massachusetts. Your father, though a country parson, is admired by everyone, even in Boston. And your sister's just married a man in a fair way of business. We had greater hopes for you.
I have none greater than Mr. Adams.
So what, pray tell, do you see in the man? Surely not his manner. Why, he is so stiff and awkward. I blush for him. Conversation lacks all the ease and politeness that marks a gentleman, and worst of all, he changes his mood more often than he changes his clothes.
Mother, he loves me.
Well, so would any young man who knew you.
But I do not want the love of any young man, nor would I have it if I did. Mother, look at me. I am not a beauty like Elizabeth, nor am I pert and lively as Mary is. I have some small learning of my own and no dowry. Indeed, I have all the qualities to make a spinster, save one. Mr. Adams loves me.
Abby, I cannot bear the thought of your living in such poverty. Why, in summer, a farmhouse is stifling. And if the heat does not sicken you, the horseflies will plague you in your own rooms. In the winter, the cold seep through the cracks in the walls.
Mother, that means nothing to me.
Married to a country lawyer, you'll be looked down on by every butcher's wife in Boston.
Mother, please. I shall marry Mr. Adams if he asks me.
Well.
Indeed, I shall marry Mr. Adams if he does not ask me.
Abigail, will you say something?
What would you have me say?
That my company gives you pleasure.
How can I take pleasure in the company of a man who arrives with such a miserable expression?
Well, damn it, Abby, what do you expect when you command my whole attention? I ramble about my farm all day, gazing and gaping, thinking only of you. If I open a law book, my imagination carries me to this house. Even at my prayers, I think only of you. And in bed.
Mr. Adams, please.
In bed, my fancy evokes 1,000 scenes of delight, exciting such desires I cannot gratify. This adds to my natural misery 1,000-fold.
Poor Mr. Adams.
It would all be tolerable if I felt I could honorably ask your father for your hand.
Is there some impediment?
Well, aside from my poverty, there's my character. You know I'm vain, fretful, jealous, quick to anger.
Mr. Adams, I will marry you, but on one condition.
Yes.
That you allow me to discover your faults for myself. It is not as though I were perfection. Indeed, I have faults as well.
I know.
What?
I know that you have faults.
Well, if you find some failing in me, then you must let me know so I may study to correct it.
Well, my dear, since you ask me to catalog your faults, there's the way in which you sit.
Indeed?
Yes, you hang your head like a bulrush. You do not sit erect as you ought. It makes you appear far too short for a beauty.
At last.
Another imperfection is that of walking with the toes forward. I believe this is commonly called parrot-toed. It is the reverse of a noble air and sublime deportment. And what is worse, you obstinately persist in sitting with your legs crossed. This ruins the figure and injures the health. It springs, I fear, from too much thinking.
Redeemer's name be sung through every...
You should endeavor to learn to sing. Your voice is as harsh as the screech of a peacock. Thus have I given a faithful portrait of all your spots. Nearly 2 years have I studied for more, but they are not to be discovered. All the rest is bright and luminous.
It was a splendid wedding, Mr. Adams.
Indeed, Mrs. Adams. Was it necessary for the refreshments to be served in the second-best china?
Mr. Adams, that had nothing to do with you. Father will conceal his wealth from the parish so they may not be hindered from making contributions to the church.
Well, he did not conceal it when your sister married my friend Cranch. Then the very best china was used. Moreover, at their wedding, he preached a sermon on the joys of married love. At our wedding, he spoke of the sufferings of parents. No, in every way, our wedding was less than that of your sister and my friend.
Mr. Adams, you are wrong. Surely you noticed my mother.
Well, one could hardly overlook her for the sniveling and the storm of tears.
Indeed. At our wedding, Mother cried twice as much as she did when my sister married Mr. Cranch.
(1776). A Declaration of Independence has been signed by once loyal American colonists. John Adams of Massachusetts, one time subject of His Britannic Majesty, now a traitor and rebel to his king. George III of England, earnest, well-intentioned, plagued by ill health which will tip him to madness, ill-advised by ministers and generals who assure him the rebellion will be short and sweet, just a brief interruption of domestic plans, while British might teaches the Americans to behave.
Madam, you want a room for the night, do you? Why, half the world wants a room for the night. I'm full up till
Madam, I am Dr. Franklin. This is Mr. Adams. We are members of your Congress on important business.
Aye, indeed. Every fat fellow with a pair of spectacles can make that claim. This is New Jersey. We're on couple of deeper tricks than that here.
Surely a woman of your beauty and compassion.
Madam, these are our papers. They will acquaint you with our persons.
Well, sir, forgive me. I'm honored. Lucy, show Dr. Franklin and Mr. Adams the garret chamber.
We require separate rooms.
Sir, there's a war on. You'll have to pig it together for tonight.
Nasty little room, isn't it?
It's a palace compared to what our soldiers sleep in. Have you read this dispatch from General Washington? It states that our army is in a state of wretchedness. Defeated, diseased, without bedding or blankets, food or medicine. Damn this Congress for their failure to provide.
Rest assured, they will boot the funds after our meeting with Lord Howe tomorrow.
Meeting is clearly a British trick. I do not trust these wily, high-born Englishmen.
Sir, rest easy. You're in the company of a wily, low-born American. Understand, there are those in the Congress who will not vote funds for the army unless we respond to every British peace offer. Sir, don't close it.
Why not?
We shall be suffocated here.
Dr. Franklin, I have a fear of the evening air. It disagrees with my health.
Nonsense.
Well, sir, I have made a study of my illness, and always at the start there was an open window.
No, sir. Always at the start there was an open window which you closed. Close that window, sir, and you risk sudden dangerous dilation of your pores.
My pores?
Followed by a swelling of the arterioles. Not only will you catch a cold, but you'll lose all power of procreation. Why, the organs of generation cannot be expected to rise when the window is lowered.
What? That is addle-pated, canting nonsense.
Indeed. You now fancy yourself a scientist?
Well, Dr. Franklin, my wife has presented me with 5 fine children. I assure you, at home, we always sleep with our window closed.
Perhaps there was a draft.
No, sir.
But, of course, you New Englanders are a race apart. Perhaps you generate your own drafts in your person. Well, I've often noticed when you enter a room, Mr. Adams, a definite chill settles over it.
Dr. Franklin, I will allow the window to remain open. I do so not out of deference to your superior wisdom, but from respect for your advanced age and our close friendship.
Dr. Franklin, do try some of the strawberry jam. I have it specially sent from a small shop in Jermyn Street for my table here.
Lord Howe, we have not come all the way from Philadelphia merely to take tea with you.
Ever the Spartan, Mr. Adams. Gentlemen, I have excellent news for you. I am now able to assure you that our gracious king and his parliament are very favorably inclined towards redressing your grievances. Indeed, sir, you will find them willing to grant full pardons to those who will treat for peace.
Is that why you have invited us here, to grant us pardons?
Indeed, sir, you shall have them as soon as the rebellious colonies return to their allegiance.
My lord, America will deal only as an independent state.
If we permit you to govern us again, you could do so only with force of arms.
Dr. Franklin, please. I wave an olive branch and you see only a sword. Is there no way to gain your trust?
If your lordship truly wishes peace, return home and urge the Parliament to accept our independence.
Sir, you know that is impossible.
A few months ago, you would have thought it impossible for our country to unite against you.
You unite for your own destruction. How long can you conduct a war on little more than anger? When passion governs, she governs badly.
Now, how would you know that, sir?
I have read it in the works of Dr. Franklin. Gentlemen, you leave me little choice. I fear I must now take New York and advance to Philadelphia. More tea, Dr. Franklin.
My dearest friend, We have been 3 days soaking in the heaviest rain that has been known in several years. I took a walk to the Potter's Field, where our dead soldiers lie. Upwards of 2,000 are buried here. Disease has destroyed 10 men where the sword of the enemy has killed 1. I never in my whole life was affected by so much melancholy. But we must not despair. One thing is more certain every day. Our people will and do fight. Though they make a clumsy hand of it, yet they do better and better.
With Dr. Franklin departed to France as our representative, yet another of my friends has left this Congress. Separated from all that I love, wedded to all that I hate, wasted in mind and body with incessant application to business, I have asked leave of the Congress. I shall decline any re-election to it. My dearest friend, I am coming home. Now remember, there is to be no jumping or shouting or fighting or crying. Papa will be very tired from his journey.
Will he remember me, Mama?
Charlie, of course he will.
Would I scarce remember him?
That is ridiculous, Charlie. Papa looks exactly like me, only bigger.
And Nabby.
Yes, Mama?
Very well, children. You may open the door for your father.
Bonjour, Papa! Bonjour, Papa!
Mrs. Adams, I'm James Lovell. Lovell, the new representative from Massachusetts.
Yes, I know who you are. Why are you here?
I'd hoped to speak with Mr. Adams before returning to Boston. I have some news for him.
Mr. Adams has yet to arrive. We've been waiting hours.
With your leave, madam, I will wait with you.
Surely your news can wait until tomorrow.
I fear it cannot. I carry a message from the Congress.
Children, wait for your father outside.
Mother, you didn't want to...
Nabby, go. Mr. Lovell, this is a private family reunion. You would not want to spoil it with news of a lost battle.
Madam.
We want no news here today.
Mrs. Adams, Silas Dean, one of our commissioners in France, has been recalled. He was discovered in a course of financial intrigue and faces charges of embezzlement.
Shocking. But not surprising. Is that your news? There are few men who will not follow a course of self-interest when they can.
There is one who will not. And the Congress has appointed him Dean's replacement.
Oh, no. He will refuse. He must refuse.
Mrs. Adams, he is needed in France. Unfortunately, Dr. Franklin has fallen out with Mr. Lee. Only Mr. Adams can sort out the
Mr.
title
Lovell,
of the
whatever
favor.
have I done to you that you contrive to rob me of my every happiness? Send him to France? Put him to the hazards of a winter crossing? His health is delicate enough, and mine is worse. No, I will not suffer it.
Madam, I am sorry.
Mr. Adams will refuse. I know that.
So does the Congress. And they trust that you will prevail upon him to see his duty.
Oh, I will. Be assured I will. And his duty is here with his wife and his children.
Madam, please. Dr. Franklin is too old to
Mr.
carry
Lovell,
out her...
I have sacrificed 3 years to this cause. I have, without complaint, taught French to my babies, mended fences, dug potatoes, but I will not have this. Besides, we can't afford it.
The Congress has granted him a small allowance.
One which does not permit his family to join him.
I fear it will merely cover his own travel expenses.
Well, then damn this Congress for the heartless villain that it is.
Mama!
Abigail! Abigail! Mr. Adams, I fear your wife has discovered the design of Congress to appoint you...
Mr. Lovell, I have already refused the Congress.
My dearest.
I have not the stuff of a diplomat. My wig never fits. And you see how badly I manage greetings.
Sir, it is your wisdom and integrity we need.
Mr. Lovell, my wife and I have much to discuss, and none of it concerns the business of the Congress. So if you will excuse us, now.
You will stay the month. You must stay the month. It will take a month to fit you out.
Oh, Abigail, I cannot go.
Yes, you will go. And you will take John Quincy with you.
But you will need the boy here.
This country needs trained diplomats more than I do.
No, I cannot take the boy.
Yes, you can. We must give him every opportunity. How often have you said you fear the ridicule of the world because of your narrow preference for New England?
Well, what of that?
Johnny will not have that complaint when he goes with you to France.
Well, I fear
you fear too much.
I never feared that you would keep me if the Congress commanded. It has been the great blessing of my life that you do understand.
Je parle français, Papa.
Oh, Charlie.
Tommy, your greeting?
Bonjour, Papa. Welcome home.
Oh, thank you, Tommy.
No, Papa. Merci.
Yes, Charlie. Merci. Merci.
Son Excellence, Monsieur Adams and Monsieur John Quincy Adams.
Mr. Adams.
Dr. Franklin.
How pleased I am to see you here.
Thank you.
Did you have a good voyage, my lad?
The ocean was better behaved than the crew, Doc. You cannot believe the amount of profane swearing our sailors were given to, without regard for the boy.
He seems none the worse for it.
Indeed. He is an Adams, not a parrot. We know he will not repeat what he has heard.
Oh, a true diplomat, eh? Where are you staying in Paris?
Well, I can make no permanent arrangements until I've settled Johnny in school.
You'll stay here with me. There's room enough, and I welcome your company.
Thank you.
So, you're to be schooled in France, eh? I envy you. Here in France, there's everything to inform the understanding, refine the taste, and purify the heart.
Yes, at your age, Doctor. But at his age, there is everything to seduce, deprave, corrupt, and debauch him. Still, to exclude him from temptation is to exclude him from the world in which he is to live. There. Now, when can we begin our work?
Sir, you're not officially recognized until you've been introduced at Versailles. I shall arrange a meeting with the King's Minister, the Comte de Vergennes.
Oh, yes. Have you established good relationship with him?
We cannot hope for a better friend. I dare say there's not a Frenchman who's not well disposed to our cause. If it were not for the petty jealousies of our own people, our mission in Europe would be carried off without a snag or stumble.
Dr. Franklin, Madame Brion vous attend.
Ah, ma chère Helene.
Chère Helene, indeed. Benjamin, I am furious.
Oh, so that is why you look so ravishing. Allow me to introduce...
Enchanté. Is it true what Lucien Chagrin told me this morning? That you play cards with her? While she took her bath last night.
Lies, lies.
Swear it. And my heart not yours. You have no heart. Now swear.
We played chess. Only chess. Believe me, Helene.
Do you see how this scoundrel torments me, swearing to love me alone, while seducing half the women in Paris?
Madam, my son.
Ah, Charles.
Helene.
Oh, it's no use. Who can remain angry with you? I don't care what games you play. As long as you do not play them tonight, you will be in good time for my dinner party.
And may I bring Mr. Adams?
Adams? Le fameux Adams? C'est un homme en vogue, oui?
Oui, Monsieur Adams.
I know. Who has not heard of the great Samuel Adams? The Boston Tea Party. Sons of Liberty. I am honored.
Madam, you mistake me for my distinguished cousin, Samuel. I am John Adams.
No.
Yes.
Quel dommage. But do not feel badly, monsieur. You are a friend of Dr. Franklin, no? And that is enough distinction for any American in Paris. You will come to my soirée tonight. Everyone will be there. À tout à l'heure.
What has happened to Dr. Franklin? He's so altered since I last saw him in America.
Sir, I believe that Dr. Franklin has been afflicted with the 3 V's, which plague all Americans in Paris.
What do you mean?
Vanity, venery, and vergin. Look at this, sir. His face decorates half the teacups in Paris. You can buy him on snuff boxes, serving trays, 10-sou engravings, with or without fur cap and witty quotations. Oh, yes, he's all the rage. These French have turned him into a sort of demigod. Indeed, he is more honored than a deity. Oh, yes, he's all the fashion, and he knows it.
And he's making many friends for America.
For America. Any American who serves here with him will tell you that he makes great friends for Franklin. He believes that he has captivated Paris. It's clear that he is the captive of this city. His venery, his lust, would be infamous anywhere else. And his close friendship with the Comte de Vergin does not serve our country well. Be careful, Mr. Adams. This court is a nest of intrigue and cunning.
Mr. Adams.
Excuse me?
Let me introduce you to the Count and Countess de Vergin.
I look forward to our meeting, sir. Dr. Franklin has spoken so often of your services to your country.
All Paris is admiring your great writings, Mr. Adams.
Indeed.
Yes. Le common sense is my favorite.
Madam, you mistake me for Mr. Thomas Paine.
Pray forgive me, sir. Come. Let me take you to the Petit Gâteau. They shall be my peace offering. Ouvrez la bouche.
Madame?
You must meet my cousin, Louis de Gontaut-Biron.
My dearest Abby, how shall I persuade my dear countrymen to avoid the plague of Europe? If power were in my hands, I would forever banish and exclude from America all gold, silver, precious stones, marble, silk, velvet, and lace. The ladies might denounce me as a tyrant, but I would remind them that true tyrants banish things of greater value: wisdom, virtue, and liberty. I am, with an ardor that words have not the power to express, yours.
Oh, Doctor.
Ah, Mr. Adams. Up working so late?
I wonder if I might have a few words with you.
Pray, Mr. Adams, will you wait for tomorrow?
Sir, I promise not to keep you up late.
Oh, Mr. Adams, I'm not retiring. I'm going out.
At this hour?
A small private party. A little whist, followed by a little whimsy.
Well, I'm not asking for an account of your evenings, Doctor, but I have been charged by the Congress to provide an account of our expenses here. Can you tell me where I can find some record of the loans made by France in the months prior to my arrival?
Have you asked Mr. Lee?
Yes, Mr. Lee does not know. All I can find are these scraps of paper. Nowhere can I locate a proper ledger of our records.
Mr. Adams, it is very late. As you can observe, I'm an elderly man. I save all my strength to deal with the French court. Well, as representatives of America, we must be loved so that our country is loved. Yes, we must study to be courtiers here, not clerks. Diplomacy is a difficult art.
Even diplomats keep records, Doctor. Have you kept no records?
Spies, Mr. Adams. Spies everywhere. Don't trust Mr. Lee.
Oh, I know Mr. Lee has a difficult temper, but I believe him to be an honest man, loyal to his country.
Yeah, you may believe that if you wish, sir, but I believe it best to keep few records. Safer to store it all in one's head.
Ah, so that it is in your memory.
Mr. Adams, who would trust the memory of a man my age? I wouldn't.
Well, how are we to pay back the loans made by the French bankers if we have no records? And what of our debts to our agents here in Europe?
Mr. Adams, it's been my experience in life that no one ever loses a debt by misplacing a bill. They will turn up, believe me. Now, if you no longer need me, I must be going. Do get some rest, Mr. Adams. You look tired. Tomorrow you are to be introduced in Versailles.
Votre Majesté, Son Excellence, le ministre des États-Unis d'Amérique, Monsieur John Adams.
Monsieur Adams.
Votre Majesté.
Faire votre connaissance me ravit. Rien ne m'est plus précieux que la cause de notre Amérique du Nord, et vous me verrez y consacrer tout mon zèle. Votre docteur Franklin a fait de nous tous des fils de la liberté. Vous plaisez-vous à Paris? Est-ce votre premier voyage en France? Serait-il indisposé?
Sire, Monsieur Adams ne saurait comprendre votre Majesté. Il ne parle pas notre langue et ne l'entend guère davantage.
Pas un mot?
Enfin.
Monsieur Adams.
I warned you not to waste your time copying our accounts. Far better you spent your time learning French.
But I have been studying. I have an excellent grammar.
Mr. Adams, French can be learned from the salon or in the boudoir, but nobody ever mastered it from a book.
You are wrong, sir. My son has. He learns more French in one day than I have in the month I've been here.
Dr. Franklin, His Majesty wishes to hear all about your meeting with Voltaire. Mr. Adams, why don't you make a tour of the gardens? Everyone understands the language of the flowers.
I tell you, Johnny, the longer I live and the more I see of public men, the more I wish to be a private one.
Father, are you thinking of resigning your commission here?
There are too many American ministers in Paris. Far better the Congress appoint only one and give him the full authority to deal with the French.
Then you wish to carry on here alone?
Me? Never. Oh, it's Dr. Franklin who should have the full authority. The French love him. He and that devious Vergennes are the greatest of friends. They deserve each other.
But you're Dr. Franklin's friend as well, Father, are you not?
No more, Johnny. He only studies to advance his own fame in the world. He is vanity. He sets about to spread his fame so the mob will stare and gape.
Have you told him so?
What do you take me for, Johnny? I am, after all, a diplomat. Now, where shall we spend our afternoon? It is your free Sunday as well as mine.
Well, Father, the boys at school told me about a hall of curiosities in the Faubourg Saint-Germain.
Oh? What curiosities?
They say there's a woman who weighs 450 pounds there. She wears a thimble as big as my fist on her finger.
Well, we shall view this wonder of the modern world if it is your wish. And I pray that she is adorned by more than that thimble, Johnny.
Papa!
Come now, we must not waste a precious afternoon in dawdling. I have a list of monuments and churches that we will view after we've gazed upon your human mountain. There's much to see here before we return to America.
Do you think that will be soon?
If Congress will not send us home, Johnny, we will go home nonetheless. We are finished with Paris. Fini.
Your Excellency, I fear I have some distressing news for you.
Huh? You have me in check again?
If that were all. My latest dispatches from America advise me that the Congress has appointed Mr. Adams as sole American Peace Commissioner, granting him the power to negotiate a treaty with Great Britain.
But you are the only man qualified to undertake...
Your Excellency, I am to remain as representative to the French court.
He will not accept. Adams must know that he has not the skill, the experience to deal with England.
He has accepted. Even now he's traveling to Paris with additional reinforcements. 2 of his sons, and Francis Dana, a secretary. Naturally, he will confer with you here before attempting to treat with the British. Be assured, he is committed by the Congress to seek your advice in all these matters.
How can I put it more clearly, Mr. Adams? Much as we desire the end of hostilities between your country and England, it would be a great mistake for you to enter into negotiations before America has won a decisive victory on the battlefield.
Yes, but that might be months from now. The Congress has sent me here to open negotiations at this time.
With the advice and approval of your ally France. Well, sir, we advise against it now.
Your Excellency, Mr. Adams is aware of the great debt we owe to France. Nothing we do will jeopardize our amity.
Except perhaps our efforts to make a peace with England that does not suit France. That is why no word of my presence in Paris has been published in the newspapers. If I am ignored, perhaps I will disappear, and the war will go on as before with no peace in sight.
Mr. Adams, you need have no fear that America will fight forever. I have already begun drafting the agenda for negotiations between your country and Great Britain. Voyez.
Do you approve this?
We will be happy to study it and give it a due...
This calls for a general armistice between Great Britain and her colonies. Where does it recognize America's independence?
That is something the powers of Europe will negotiate in your behalf. And we will join with Russia to protect your interests.
Indeed. Empress Catherine is no friend to our revolution. She will certainly not intercede for us. Indeed, what king or queen can speak for us? No, sir. American independence is not a matter for negotiation. It is a precondition, something which you and the English must understand.
Sir, it is but a draft. We welcome your suggestions.
You welcome my suggestions? Sir, we have not cast off the yokes of English masters to put on the chains of French protectors.
Mr. Adams, sir, you do not truly believe that we wish to enslave you.
Monsieur, no man is more aware of our obligation to your country than I am. But I am also aware that you owe us a great deal in return.
Indeed, sir.
And the new power France has gained in Europe is a direct result of my countrymen's struggle for independence. Our separation from your great enemy, England, has allowed you to regain the great power and strength you once had. The obligations, as I see them, sir, are mutual.
Mr. Adams, you are the strangest diplomat I have yet encountered. Have you returned to Paris to make peace with the English or to declare war on France?
Mr. Adams, you were always an honest man, often a wise man. But sometimes, sir, you are completely out of your senses.
Will you now tell your French friends that I'm mad? It is this groveling toward the French that I call lunacy.
Sir, what is it but madness to question the motives of our only benefactor?
And you agree with Vergennes. They pay and we obey. That would make us the beggars of the world.
What else are we? Our treasury is bankrupt. Our army stays alive on French funds and supplies. It is not our place to inspect the French motives, so long as we get the French money.
You would sell us to France.
Nonsense. All we need do is make a public show of submitting to their will. Privately, we'll follow our own course. Mr. Adams, you were always an honest man, often a wise man. But sometimes, sir, you are completely out of your senses.
Will you now tell your French friends that I'm mad? It is this groveling toward the French that I call lunacy.
Sir, what is it but madness to question the motives of our only benefactor?
And you agree with Vergennes. They pay and we obey. That would make us the beggars of the world.
What else are we? Our treasury is bankrupt. Our army stays alive on French funds and supplies. It is not our place to inspect the French motives, so long as we get the French money.
You would sell us to France.
Nonsense. All we need do is make a public show of submitting to their will. Privately, we'll follow our own course.
Oh, no, Mr. Adams. You do not disturb me. I am honored by your unexpected visit.
Thank you, monsieur. In the past weeks, I've come to share your view that this may not be the best time to open negotiations with England. Indeed, we do need a great victory in the field in order to bring them to the conference table. Therefore, I have worked out this plan. If the French fleet were settled in Chesapeake Bay, it could harass the British lines of communication, and we could bring them to such misery they would
But
have
Mr.
to...
Adams, the Comte de Rochambeau and Admiral de Ternay are in America now with this express purpose in mind.
But why did no one tell me of this?
An oversight. Rochambeau will discuss the question of a blockade with General Washington. It is, after all, a matter for generals, not mere diplomats such as we are.
I am hardly a diplomat, sir, until I am recognized as such. Until my credentials as peace commissioner are made known to the English, I am merely a guest in a foreign country. At times an unwanted.
Mr. Adams, nobody would like to see you leave Paris in triumph more than I. But if we allowed you to announce your mission at this time, the English would consider any communication ridiculous.
Monsieur, I realize that I cannot go against the wishes of this court, so long as you remain our only ally. I see it does not serve your designs for America to make peace until you have squeezed the last drop of advantage out of our war with England. But, sir, you are not the only country in Europe.
My dearest Abby, a child was never more weary of a whistle than I am of embassies. If we could flit across the Atlantic, as they say the angels do from planet to planet, I would dart to Braintree tonight, bring you over on my wings, and end this horrid solitude. For God's sake, never reproach me again with not writing. Your wounds strike too deep. You don't know the dangers that surround me and our country. There are spies upon every word I utter and every syllable I write. Spies planted by the English, spies planted by envious and malicious politicians. My life has been often in danger, but I never considered my reputation and character so much in danger as now.
Congratulations, Mr. Adams.
Sir, I know of nothing that warrants your congratulations.
Sir, you must not be so modest. I've just been advised by the Comte de Vergennes that you have raised the art of rudeness to a new height. Sir, is there no end to your suspicions?
How can there be, when every action of this court confirms my worst fears? They would keep us poor and weak. Why, they make all Europe believe that we are in great distress and danger, so that other nations will be discouraged from taking our part.
Nonsense.
But then why have the bankers of Holland failed to lend us money?
Mr. Adams, we can hardly blame France for Holland's stinginess. You know as well as I that the Dutch will not lend us money as long as they are under the English influence.
She's ripe to fall off the English tree if we could reach her. Show her that we are an independent power worthy of her support.
No.
Why? Because the Count de Vergennes does not wish us to have another ally? He wishes us only to be dependent on France?
Adams, pray cease this ranting. I will not have it. No man regrets more than I that your mission in Europe must wait to be accomplished. I wish the time were ripe to open negotiations with the British, but you know as well as I that this is not the moment. I well understand how in your idleness you have become a creature of mischief. It is the way with boys. And like a boy, your imagination makes you see enemies behind every tree. Lacking true enemies here, you endeavor to create them. And I must warn you, you have succeeded. Vergennes has asked me to write to the Congress, requesting your recall.
Have you done so?
No. But if you cannot control your tongue in France, I will be obliged to seek the help of Congress in restraining you. Sir, you threaten all the good work I've accomplished in this court.
Dr. Franklin, since I appear to be in your way here, I shall remove myself to Holland and do what I can for my country there.
But you have no authority to act in Holland.
My instructions from the Congress allow me to reside where I choose.
Mr. Adams, you may go to Holland or to hell. Whichever is closer.
The University at Leiden is the very best in Europe. I know you will be happy there.
But the students at the university will all be years older than we are. They may not speak to us.
Well, you and your brother will have each other. And you will make other friends. You may use your solitude to improve your Latin. I hope you will soon be proficient in Virgil and Tully's orations.
Oh, I know. Dr. Franklin recommended them to me.
I would you did not mention that man to me.
Father, have you quarreled again?
For the last time. So far as my cruel fate compels me to act with him in public, I will treat him with decency. Further than that, I can feel nothing but contempt and abhorrence. My lord, I don't believe this. Look at this, Johnny. Charlie, the London Courant calls me a rebel chieftain. Here, read, Charlie.
He's the most obnoxious rebel of them all. Poor Dr. Franklin is only his due.
What I would not give to see his face when he reads this. Oh, we must send this to your mother. I wonder if she got the last parcel I sent from France. The bolt of the sauciest red cloth I ever saw. I told her to make a dress of it, but knowing your mother, she probably sold it and bought new farm implements with the profits.
When I learned of the plot to have Mr. Adams recalled by the Congress, I decided to inform you of what was happening. The Comte de Vergennes has complained to the Congress requesting his recall.
Surely Dr. Franklin will stand by my husband.
Dr. Franklin joins Vergennes in seeking his censure.
Oh, is there no end to human perfidy? No, it is wrong to speak of betrayals. When you have demonstrated such great loyalty, Mr. Lovell.
It is my duty as an old friend of Mr. Adams.
Nabby, set another place. Mr. Lovell will stay for supper.
Yes, Mother.
Oh, Mrs. Adams, I would not trouble you.
No, you must rest the night before returning to Congress. We are quite starved for polite conversation here in Braintree.
I cannot believe that, madam. Surely your house must be filled with friends and admirers.
No. Things are very much changed since the war. Old friends have moved back to England. Neighbors have moved away. There is very little sociability.
Then you must be very lonely here.
That word scarcely describes the desolation of my life. I have only Nabby for company. She is not given to gay chatter. She misses her brothers and her father.
She's quite lovely.
That does little to improve a woman's conversation.
It does not seem to interfere with your own, madam.
What?
Mrs. Adams,
Mr. Lovell, is something wrong? Why do you stare so?
I fear that I'm still amazed at what I find here. Mr. Adams and others have often spoken of your wit and zeal, but why has no man ever spoken of your beauty?
Well, quite simply, Mr. Lovell, because I am not beautiful.
I fear you have allowed your husband to wrong you sorely in Philadelphia.
Sir?
He speaks of you as his Portia, his Penelope. But, madam, to another man, you would be the Helen of this war.
Me, sir? Helen of Troy? I'm afraid I cannot allow you to continue in this fashion.
Pray, madam, if my affectionate esteem for you offends...
Mr. Lovell, have you quite finished with your tea?
Surely you would not turn me out without a night's lodging.
I would as soon spend a night under the same roof with Lord Howe. Nabby! Good day.
Your servant, madam.
Yes, Mother? Is he not staying for dinner?
No, Nabby, I'm afraid we have nothing on this farm to satisfy his appetite.
I'm sorry I could find you no better quarters, Mr. Adams. This view is hardly the best that Amsterdam has to offer.
I've had a wearisome journey, Mr. Dana. Please close that window. Fear I cannot farewell among such cold damps and putrid streams. How did the Dutch survive surrounded by all this dead water?
They drink a great deal of Holland's gin. Try some, Mr. Adams. It will revive you.
No, sir. To restore my spirits, I must obtain money for our country here and some recognition of our independence.
Mr. Adams, you look very tired. I'll return tomorrow and we can review the situation here.
Surely I have some letters from the Congress, letters I must answer.
I'm certain they can wait till you've had a night's sleep.
Do let me have my letters, Mr. Dana. I'll never sleep the night on that. It's too soft. Thank you. I've been informed by the Congress that my commission as sole negotiator for the peace has been ended.
I'm sorry, sir. But now you can return home.
Because they plucked my feathers? What need have I for such ornaments? I still have work to do.
But you were dismissed.
No, sir, merely diluted. I have been appointed to a 5-member peace commission with Dr. Franklin.
Sir, you must protest. This is all Franklin's intrigue.
No, sir, the Congress does well. My talent, if I have any, is for making war. I'm a wretched diplomat. I would not trust myself with such an important task as making the peace. But I am damned if I will leave Europe without obtaining the Dutch loan. Now, I must study the Dutch language. If you would obtain me a teacher.
Mr. Adams, you must rest now. You look very tired.
I fear I'm past being tired, Mr. Dana. If you know of a physician in Amsterdam who will not kill me, I pray you fetch him. I fear I've caught a fever. Oh, I'm burning with it. Quickly, sir, quickly.
Mr. Adams, are you well enough to be out of bed?
Mr. Dana, I have wasted enough time in Amsterdam already. Where's that Dutch teacher I asked for?
Sir, you were in a coma for 5 days. It wasn't the time to learn a new language.
I pray you keep my illness a secret. No one need know about it.
But why, sir?
My enemies would be happy to spread the report that my brain is not recovered from that fever. Now, the lessons.
I hear the grammar of the Dutch language, sir, but nobody learns Dutch. Anyone of consequence will speak English with you.
Nonetheless, I will make the effort. Have you procured the book I asked for to study their form of government?
Sir, nobody understands the Dutch government. Least of all the Dutch. Their constitution is so complicated and so whimsical a thing, it defies all reason. No, it's far better to study the sights.
Mr. Dana, I have not come to Amsterdam to admire the tulips and the windmills. This country will recognize our independence and lend us money. But first, let us burn these.
You fear infection from your old clothes, Mr. Adams?
Indeed, Mr. Dana. They smell of failure. I shall have a new set made to fit my future success.
Danke. May I ask, sir, what is your reason for refusing my country's appeal? Please, sir, I would appreciate frankness.
Very well, Mr. Adams. I must tell you then that it is not our habit to lend money where there is little hope of having it returned. For 6 years now, your new country has been making a revolution. What if it fails? Who will repay your debts then?
Our revolution will not fail, sir. Believe me, America will be independent.
Mr. Adams, you asked me to be frank. We do not lend money to grow poor, huh?
Indeed, sir. Your stinginess and general littleness may make you rich, but it impoverishes your soul.
I did not know you were a preacher, Mr. Adams.
Wrong again, sir. I am a diplomat.
Ik wens u een goeden dag, meneer.
And you're still not discouraged, Mr. Adams?
Certainly not, Mr. Dana. Why should I be surprised that bankers are devoted to the pursuit of gain? I see my errors now. I must convince the lawyers of the country first. Do you mind? Those who shape the opinion of the bankers. Learn from my mistakes, Mr. Dana. Stay away from bankers when you take up your new post in Russia. Clearly, bankers are the last people to go to when you need money. Thank you.
We are all so pleased to hear of General Washington's victories.
Thank you, sir.
America has many friends in Holland.
What kind of friends? Friends who will cheer her victories or friends who will help her finance a lasting peace?
But why should we help you, Mr. Adams? You could easily become the greatest manufacturing country in the world and thus ruin Europe.
Oh, sir, we are a rural people, a nation of farmers. I dare say we will not manufacture enough for our own needs in the next 1,000 years.
That would not keep you from taking up arms and threatening our peace in Europe.
We have enough land to conquer from our own rocks and trees. Why should we go abroad to trouble other nations? If we want land, all we have to do is clear a forest.
Still, sir, you study warfare. Were you not the leader of the war in your own country?
Sir, if I study war, it is so that my sons may study mathematics, and their sons may someday study poetry, painting, and architecture. Johnny? Charlie, what's happening here?
You mustn't pay any mind to his weeping papa. He always cries the day he receives a letter from Mother.
Well, your mother and sister are all right. And your younger brother? Well, then, why do you weep? Your sister, well, I hope that the universal neatness and cleanliness of the people there will cure you of all your slovenly tricks, and that you will learn from them industry, economy. Oh, son, your mother does not mean to chide you. It's just that she wants the best for you, and since she cannot be here to oversee your life, she would instruct you by proxy.
Papa, I want her to instruct me in person. I miss her so. I hate it here.
Oh, Johnny, tell him of all the advantages he has in being here.
Papa, he has told me. I still hate it here. I want to go home.
Very well, Charlie. You shall return to Boston by the next neutral ship. And you, Johnny, do you want to leave Holland too?
I'm to take him home?
No, I have a much more important task for you. How would you like to go to Russia?
Have you been transferred to Russia, Father?
No, I have not, but our friend Mr. Dana has been asked to open diplomatic relations with the Russian court. He speaks no French, and he's asked if I can spare you to be his secretary. At first I refused. I could not bear the thought of sending you away. But it is a wonderful opportunity.
Then it is settled.
Well, we have no choice. It is, after all, for our country.
So I'm to be sent to Russia, where I shall be very cold and lonely. To be secretary to Mr. Dana, a man unprepared to take on his own duties. And all this without consulting me?
Well, I never imagined you would object, Johnny.
I never imagined you would, Father.
Uw doorluchtige hoogheid, de minister van Noord-Amerika, meneer John Adams.
Mr. Adams, do come closer. And be seated. I want to examine the wizard who could obtain a loan of 5 million gulden from our bankers. Was it mesmerism? Incantation? Tell me.
There was nothing supernatural in the feat, madam. I merely presented the cause of America to the Dutch people. We have always considered Holland our first friend in Europe.
Mr. Adams, are you now unfaithful to France?
Oh, madam, our relations with France were a mere wartime dalliance. Now that the war is ending, we seek an alliance based on similar beliefs. We have always admired Holland for her freedom of thought.
every Netherlander must return that affection or pass judgment on his ancestors. You could not turn your back on our struggle for liberty without turning your back.
Mr. Adams, I have read your memorial to our people. The Netherlands has recognized your country. But I trust that this marriage between our countries will not impoverish us. 5 million gulden. And the mere 5% interest.
Well, the Dutch...
Pray, sir, do not attempt to use your art on me, for I can scarcely afford to lend you money.
Your Serene Highness, it is far more than mere money that I wish to obtain from your hands. I ask for protection for a new republic, an infant world, America.
And where is your Massachusetts?
Massachusetts? Massachusetts is right here.
You will be pleased to return there, I'm sure. Our damp Dutch weather does not agree with everyone.
Oh, is it damp here? I never noticed. Alas, I must be leaving this lovely land and returning to France. Now that the peace treaty is being negotiated with England, I'm wanted again in Paris.
I shall do my best to protect the infant, Mr. Adams, if I may be assured that he resembles his father when he matures.
Father?
Why, you are the father? Are you not, sir?
Dr. Franklin, what has happened to Mr. Adams?
Well, I fear I'm the last man to answer that, Your Excellency. Mr. Adams does not confide in me.
But he's being charming tonight. He's paying court to the Countess.
Je vous félicite de votre succès, Monsieur Adams.
Je vous remercie.
Monsieur, ma foi, vous réussissez merveilleusement bien. Vous avez fait reconnaître votre indépendance, vous avez fait un traité et vous êtes procuré de l'argent. Voilà vraiment un succès parfait.
Mr. Adams, I'm being congratulated on the success of our negotiations with England. Compliments of the study of these people. No other nation is so ingenious at giving them.
Monsieur, encore une fois.
Merci.
Ah, there is the Washington of the negotiation. Mr. Adams, permit me to present you to Madame de Montmorin.
Adams, le fameux Adams, c'est un homme en vogue, n'est-ce pas?
Madame asks if I am the famous Adams. I am. I don't believe I am.
The 13 colonies of North America, the brightest jewel in King George's imperial crown, became a new and sovereign nation with the signing of the Treaty of Paris. John Adams, truly called the Washington of the negotiations, was among those who drew up and signed that treaty recognizing the new country, the United States of America. In 1784, the village of Auteuil near Paris. John Adams, representing the United States of America, separated nearly 5 years from his family, has decided to rent a house where they may join him.
I rented this house from the Count de Rouault with the understanding that it was to be fully furnished and fit to live in.
Across the Channel, George III of Great Britain is slowly becoming reconciled to the loss of his 13 American colonies.
Look at this room, sir. And the floors. Look at the floors. Where are the carpets?
Plaît-il?
The rugs. Rugs.
Que veut dire, Votre Excellence, rags?
Rugs. Les tapis.
Ah, les tapis?
Oui.
Mais, Excellence, is not a fashion in France to put the rags upon the floor.
And eating, has that also gone out of fashion? No table linen? No spoons and forks? Not one piece of china?
Nous arrangerons cela, Excellence. You have only to buy.
My good fellow, if you are to remain in my employ, there's one thing you must understand. I am not some Spaniard of a diplomat. My pockets lined with gold. I represent America. We are poor. Comprend? I have come to raise money, not throw it to the wind. And if you think I am parsimonious, wait until you meet my wife.
Oh non, je m'excuse.
Pardon.
Il n'y a pas de quoi, Excellence. There is a gentleman to see you, Monsieur Jefferson.
Oh, has he arrived? Thank you.
Mr. Jefferson!
Hello, Mr. Adams.
Welcome to France. Oh, dear friend, I cannot tell you how pleased I am to see you.
Well, you're looking well.
Am I? Well, that's most unlikely. Ever since I set foot on this continent, I have been bedeviled by every illness known to man.
Poor Mr. Adams.
Scurvy, boils, fiery tumors, a horrendous fever that almost destroyed me.
Mr. Adams, how long have we known each other?
Since the Continental Congress.
A long time. And every time we meet, you're at death's door.
Yes, well, I have a sickly constitution.
Nonsense. You'll outlive us all.
Yeah, this is a curious place. Look at that. Great sprawling hall. Over a dozen bedrooms, half of them looking as if they were about to cave in on one's head. Still, it will keep my wife and daughter out of the stink of Paris.
What on earth is he doing? Sometimes I think everyone in this country is stark raving mad. Do you realize it's 4½ years since I've been home? 4½ lonely, sick, miserable, thankless years, scrambling across Europe, begging and borrowing. Oh, I'm sick to death of politics. All I dream of now is being back on my farm in Braintree. How are things at home?
Disorder, discontent, money scarce, shipping at a standstill. The peace is ruining more merchants than the war.
The Congress?
Confusion, indecision, jealousy between the states. 13 cats in a sack, spitting and scratching.
How stupid. Our future is hanging by a thread. We will survive or perish on the answer to one question. Are we unified enough to deal with foreign nations? After all the bloodshed to win our independence, what an irony if we should now strangle for want of trade.
Have we any prospects?
Well, Prussia's interested.
And Denmark? Spain?
Cautious, waiting to see which way England will move.
Well, at least we can count on France.
Can we? The king is inept. The queen is busy with amorous adventures. It is their minister who pulls the strings.
Eugène.
He's a conceited ass. Takes a bath with his medals on.
Oh, he's clever, so I'm told.
Oh, yes. He and Dr. Franklin are quite a pair. Forever whispering, maneuvering, hatching plots behind my back.
You have not much love for our fellow trade commissioner, hmm?
Franklin? The man is immoral. Lazy, senile old mischief maker playing France's game.
Which is what?
To keep us cut off from England. Thomas, we must find a way to bind up the wounds of war. Sign a treaty of trade and friendship. If we are to survive, we must restore relations with the British Crown.
Is this the same John Adams who helped to lead a revolution?
Well, resisting England's tyranny is one thing. Dealing with her as an equal is quite another.
Eugène would dearly love to monopolize our commerce.
Merci.
C'est tout, Votre Excellence.
Ah, oui, merci. But if we can establish relations with other countries, we could make...
wench. Most enchanting smile.
Has she? I didn't notice.
You never notice anyone but Mrs. Adams.
After all these years, the thought of seeing her again, I burn with impatience.
Adams, Adams. You really are a wonder. Who would believe that beneath that staid New England breast there beats the heart of a Romeo?
And that sort of thing. I'm not sure that's altogether suitable for Mrs. Adams and Nabby.
Oh, I imagine Mrs. Adams will manage to survive the shock. And as for your daughter, well, how old is she now?
19.
It's hardly a child. Well, when will you see them?
They've already arrived in London. I've sent John Quincy to be with them. I'm going to fetch them in the morning.
Oh, Papa!
Sweet Princess Nabby. Oh.
Mr. Adams. You wrote you had been ill. How are you now?
20 years younger than I was yesterday.
I had it all planned. What I would wear to greet you. How I would do my hair. Oh, Mr. Adams. How I have missed you.
Good morning.
Good morning, Papa.
Are you enjoying London?
Yes, Papa.
Looking forward to Paris?
Yes, Papa.
Nabby, what is it?
I've thought so much of seeing you again. Now that it's come about,
Well, say it, child. Shall I guess what you're feeling? Resentment at my opposition to your wish to marry Royal Tyler?
I love him.
Because he's gay and handsome and writes verses? One may dance and sing and scribble poetry and not be very good for much.
Papa, you don't know him.
I opposed the marriage because he squandered his inheritance and had no way to support you. And because you were too young.
Yes, I was a child when you left home. I am a woman now, yet you still see me as a child.
I wrote that if you truly wished to marry Mr. Tyler, I would give my blessing.
So you wrote, Papa, but I knew how you felt.
Well, what is it you want?
I want you to trust my judgment and respect my feelings.
All your father asks is 1 year of your time.
A year.
If love is real, it will not fade that quickly.
When you were a child. If I was gone for just a day, you would wait outside the gate, and when I got down from my horse, you would run and kiss me.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How is everyone this splendid morning? Father, how long do we have in London?
A few days only, then I must return to Paris.
With your permission, sir, I shall continue in my efforts to improve the character and morals of my wretched sister.
Oh, that sounds exhausting.
What do you two plan to do today?
Visit to the exhibition of Mr. Copley's paintings.
Oh.
Then to the waxworks. Finally, a brief stop at the hospital for fallen women. To hear those unlucky creatures sing their hymns. From all accounts, the melancholy melody of their voices would bring tears from a stone.
Johnny is studying for career in politics. He never says in 2 words what he can say in 20.
Well, that should prepare him for Congress.
My sole purpose is to enlarge my darling sister's education.
And to avoid studying your algebra.
It will not do to have an ignorant village lass daughter to the first minister to England.
For what?
I heard it yesterday from Mr. Copley. He has received a letter telling him it is rumored we are to have a minister to the court of St. James. Mr. Copley feels certain it will be you, Father. You seem disturbed. I should think it would please you.
Please me? Fills my heart with dread. That is not a life for which I am prepared.
Nor I. I'm not trained to shine at court. I cannot dance or drink or make small talk. Lie, flatter, flirt with ladies, drink with gentlemen. Do not worry. I would refuse the post if it were offered.
My dearest sister, I I have been occupied since our arrival here in France with trying to put our domicile in order. Table linen to make, bed linen to purchase. I am a little put out with my husband. He loves to have everything as it should be, but does not wish to be troubled by domestic matters. 1,000 tasks I must attend to. Spoons and forks to be made of silver, china to be bought. Everything that will bear the name of elegant is imported from England, and if you will have it, you must pay for it. And all this at a time when Congress has cut our allowance by 500 guineas. We are obliged to keep a regiment of servants, a coachman and a gardener, chambermaid, valet and cook, and a major domo, butler, maitre d'hotel, or whatever he is called, whose business is to purchase articles for the family and see that no one cheats us but himself.
Beloved Royal, my dearest, here outside Paris the trees are touched with autumn. My constant close companions are my brother and my bird, a pretty creature so cheerful. Would I were the same, for in a way we share captivity. His cage is barred by brass, whilst I am caged by time. I am the dutiful daughter with Mamma and Papa, and the merry sister with John Quincy. But it is all a game. Behind the mask I hunger for the day when we are wed. How slowly time drags by. Will this year never end?
Sir, you will oblige me by striking my name from the list of those you are presently considering for appointment as minister to England. I have had my fill of foreign diplomats, receptions, balls, and dinners. My health is fragile and causes me concern. When my labors here are finished, it is my intention to return to Braintree, breed my boys to business and the bar, cultivate my field, and leave diplomacy to those who like it better.
Dear sister, it is with some trepidation that I prepare myself to enter society. Fashion is the deity that everyone worships in this country. To be out of fashion is more criminal than to be seen in a state of nature, to which Parisians are not averse.
Mon Dieu, it is provoking.
What is, Pauline?
Your daughter. Mademoiselle so pretty. I so laid. Must give Madame happiness to have so handsome children.
Pauline, you are a lovely girl. Be patient. In time, I am sure you will have handsome children of your own.
But already I have babies.
You have a husband?
No, Madame.
Your children, then, were conceived out of wedlock?
Oui. Half the children born in Paris every year are bastards.
Where are they now, your children?
I give them away. On the street there are boxes to put in the baby. In the morning the nuns come to take them away.
Oh, Lord, save thy children.
I'm writing home regarding the qualities desirable in a minister to England.
Mr. Adams.
Oh, your hair.
Oh, I commend your powers of observation.
New gown?
Bravo! We dine this evening at the Portuguese ministry. I hope not to disgrace you.
Oh, very nice.
Is that all? I think it is bewitching. Now then.
The post, for which, believe me, I have no desire, calls for someone well versed in the classics, Greek and Latin, Plato, Virgil, Cicero, etc.
Most aptly phrased.
He must have knowledge of history, ancient and modern, and be familiar with the laws of nature and of nations.
Yes, indeed.
A man of ripe years.
Dr. Franklin?
But not too old to undertake an arduous assignment.
Farewell, Dr. Franklin.
One with an upright heart and an independent spirit. One who will bend his personal ambitions to the interests of his country.
Not an easy man to find.
I know of only one who fills the bill in all particulars. Myself.
Bright-eyed Abigail, a Puritan in Paris. Tell me, how are you faring in this wicked city?
Oh, it's a pity I don't have the language. There was a lecture I should have liked to have attended yesterday. Recent discoveries in the realm of physics.
Your range of intellect never ceases to amaze me.
Would it if I were a man?
Well put.
At any rate, I passed the lecture by and went instead to the ballet.
Did you enjoy it?
They wear the flimsiest of gauze. The music starts, they leap into the air, skirts flying. I was ashamed to look.
And you find it sinful, then, the exhibition of their bodies?
Oh, on the contrary, sir. I find the human body a marvel. It was the sight of their drawers and garters that dismayed me.
Well, it has arrived. The invitation to serve as our minister to England.
A dubious honor. Rather like an invitation to a hanging.
Indeed. I shall, of course, refuse the post. I should be slandered, plagued. I would live the life of a man in a barrel spiked with nails.
The English are not famous for forgiveness.
And yet her English blood flows in my veins. English speech is on my tongue. And in my heart, I love her. For all her faults, she enjoys the finest constitution and the fairest laws in all the world.
When?
What?
When will we?
What?
Go. To London. The thought of it. John Adams, rebel and traitor. The thought of Mad Dog Adams, clothed in the dignity of a minister from a sovereign state, standing nose to nose with King George. That is a temptation he cannot resist.
These are all your shirts?
The lot?
Fetch me your stockings.
Barely got used to being together again. Suddenly we seem to be rushing off in all directions. Me to Boston. In a few days, all of you to London.
Are you happy to be sailing home?
Happy. And a little frightened.
I'll miss you. Oh, Johnny, I'll miss you. You must help me. For the last few months, I've had no word from Mr. Tyler. Not a word, not one word. When you get home, you must find out how the wind sits.
I will, Abby. I promise. And I'll write you every day. And tell you about all the characters I chance to meet. Including Mr. Tyler.
And I will do the same, Johnny. Every little detail.
You swear?
I swear.
You're a fortunate young man to be able to attain an education. If you ever utter one word of complaint, I will disinherit you.
Yes, sir.
At Harvard, you will breathe in the atmosphere of science and literature. It is a temple of learning.
Also a sink of iniquity.
I shall be careful.
Write to us.
I will.
Learning is liberty, but it does not fall like the rain from heaven, Johnny. You must labor for it.
Well, be off, be off. Study, you rogue, and be free.
Godspeed.
I want you to have it. Oh, what? Oh, what?
War of Independence.
Yes, sir.
Did you see much action?
Yes, sir. Harlem Heights, White Plains, Trenton.
Yes.
Oh, excuse me, I did not know you were engaged.
My daughter, Abigail. This is the gentleman Congress has sent to be my secretary, Colonel William Stevens Smith.
At your service, Miss Adams.
I came for the letters you wanted me to copy.
Oh, yes, they're on the table there. They've sent me this report on you. Now, you go on.
I served at Valley Forge, and at Yorktown I had the honor of serving on the staff of General Washington.
Oh, yes, here's his testimonial. Bravery, good conduct, gallantry, etc. Well, that's very impressive. But hardly the qualities I require. What's needed here is discretion and an amiable manner. Those offended by my blunt speech, you will be expected to win back by your charm.
I'll do my best, sir.
Well, it remains to be seen if that will be enough. And you sailed from Newport, you said?
I put into Tilbury dock yesterday with half a cargo. A little rice, a few bales of tobacco. At that, I'm better off than most. Their ships sit rotting in the harbor while British ships sail into Boston fully loaded.
Yes, from all reports, the whaling trade is at a standstill.
Our seaport towns are graveyards. Those damned English duties.
Yes, well, that's a matter I hope to negotiate, Captain Hay.
Oh, I pray you do it, sir, and quickly.
Well, diplomacy takes time, I'm afraid.
Spirit of 76 is on the rise again. It won't be long before the mob start to gather.
Just so. And now, sir, if you will kindly straighten up your shoulders. Most elegant.
The sleeves?
Well, of course, sir. We like to leave them a little long until the final stitching.
I feel like a monkey on a stick.
There is too much fullness in the sleeve cap.
Oh, I agree entirely, madam. We shall, of course, take in the side body and adjust the arm's eye.
Listen, I didn't have a chance to read the newspaper. Is there any mention of the new minister?
I noticed that you are to have an audience with the king.
No more?
Another word or two.
Oh, madam, pray note the direction of the nap of the velour.
Oh, yes. Exquisite. Well, I don't see how King George can possibly resist you.
My compliments, Your Excellency. Madam.
Notice in the paper, no insults. Come now, how do they call me this time?
A traitorous rogue.
Is that all?
A beggar and a scoundrel.
Now, you must not let it pain you.
Sir, when you are wounded, I bleed.
There is a gentleman to see you, sir, from the palace.
Oh, yes, show him in.
Oh, it must seem strange. All these years of crying defiance of the king. His Majesty damning our souls, sending his troops against us. And now to meet.
All England will watch to see how he regards me.
How will he? Contempt? I see indifference.
I will not tolerate humiliation.
Dear Mr. Adams, be courteous.
I bear no malice toward King George. One revolution in a lifetime is enough.
Mr. and Mrs. Adams, Miss Adams, Sir Clement Cotterell Dormer.
Your Excellency, Madam, Miss Adams.
How do you do?
Most honored.
Sir Clement, do sit down.
I assume you were here to...
Instruct you in court etiquette. As Royal Master of Ceremonies, I trust that I may be of some assistance.
Well, I would be most obliged.
It is customary for foreign ministers to address His Majesty in terms as complimentary as possible.
Does one simply pay one's respects and leave, or does one have to make a speech?
Some formal harangue is customary. Usual. His Majesty is in the habit of rising early. Oh, yes, yes, yes. He actually lights his own fire and cooks his breakfast. So that by late morning he grows...
hungry.
Impatient for his luncheon. So whatever you may wish to say, it would be wise to make it brief. Where was I? Oh, yes. You will be escorted to the royal closet by the most noble the Marquis of Carmarthen, His Majesty's principal Secretary of State for Foreign Affairs. Lord Carmarthen will then present you to His Majesty.